Goodbye, farewell, I'm not sure what to do. So long, au revoir. It's hard, but I'll pull through. Are you sure you won't be sorry comes tomorrow? You won't want me back again to hold you tightly. Now are you sure?
Ma answered the door, the reporter from whatever it was.
People.
The People, of course. It had to be the People, didn't it? Rang the bell. My mum answered, and he said, I understand that the Allisons don't live here, or something like that.
Or they're not brothers.
Or they're not brothers. So my mum panicked. She shouted back to somebody, to her.
To my mum, I suppose.
To your mum. He knows, she gasped.
It went in the paper like that.
That's
he
in
knows,
the People. He knows she gasped.
So while we were in the hotel, the phone rang and they said, oh, it's the Daily Express or the Daily Mail. Yes. Oh, hello. Well, congratulations on your success. Yes. Is it true you're not brothers? Oh, my God.
Oh, we thought,
we can't risk this coming out. Not yet. Not till we get back to England. So I thought, of course it's not true. I said to Bob, they know we're not brothers. He said, don't say anything.
What are we going to do?
Supposing this destroys it. Supposing they pull the record out of the charts. We didn't know what was going to happen.
We didn't know what was going to happen.
Don't rock the apple cart.
No, we could be prosecuted even.
Oh, well, we thought we got the record contract under false pretenses,
yes,
you see.
we could be prosecuted for fraud, false
dear,
declaration.
This is terrible. What are we going to do now?
I don't know.
What are we going to do now?
Jump out the window? I don't know.
Sheer genuine panic, you know.
Hey.
Anyway. We got back to him. Tito didn't fly out, did he?
Yes, he was with us. He flew back with us on the plane, and of course, when we got back to Heathrow, there was as there still is to this day.
Oh, he told us not to worry.
All the paparazzi are there.
He said, make use of it. It's all good publicity. He said, it doesn't stop your success and your record's still in the charts. And he made us realise there was nothing much to worry about.
No,
I said,
right.
oh, thank goodness for that.
Yeah, and when they came up to us, the paparazzi, he used to say, no comment. No comment.
Yeah,
and we
what
just
a shame,
pushed their way through the paparazzi and into the waiting limo or whatever
anyway,
it was at
the record dropped down from 2 to 3, but then almost instantly began to climb again. And then unbelievable, several bookings occurred. We did a variety in Chester, a week's variety in Belfast. We were with Frankie Vaughan at the London Palladium for 2 weeks.
Yes.
I think before that we went on tour, didn't we?
Yeah.
And the first week of the tour, our record went to #1. #1 in the New Musical Express, the New Record Mirror, and Disc, and that was in the record charts. But what I didn't know at that time, and I discovered in my research, it went to #1 in the jukebox charts for 3 weeks, 5 weeks, went to #1 in the sheet music charts, and #1 in the most played record of the week charts for 3 weeks. We didn't know all this, nobody told us. Well, it was ginormous.
And of course, while this was going on in Europe, it was going up the charts. And in Australia and New Zealand and all, English-speaking countries around the world.
There were 5 French versions, 5 French versions, 5 German versions, 2 Dutch versions.
Yeah, it was released in the States, I think, and got in the charts.
Yeah, it got in the charts, in Billboard and Cashbox in the States. First Eurovision song to get into the American charts. Because we were just working from every day, 7 days a week, non-stop. We were just worked off our feet.
Yeah.
We didn't know. Nobody told us. And all we ever did was one Dutch television show.
Yes. We didn't realise just how successfully it was at that
one
time.
Dutch television show. We could have toured Europe. We could have done a 5-week tour of Europe, 3 or 4 dates in each country, television, radio interviews, laid the foundations for going back in the future. Now, we believe our agent kept us out of Europe because we'd have spoken to people. Well, we weren't uneducated. We were just innocent, gullible, and
young and
inexperienced. We'd have probably said, how do you feel about being £10,000 a week? We'd have said, no, we're getting about £70 a show. Oh, no, I have the contract here. Of course, the agent said, I'm not letting them find out what's going on, so he kept us out of Europe. One Dutch television show. We never did a live show in Europe, and he put us on a pier in Blackpool for 5 months. So we didn't tour the country, finding out things. And we think our agent paid us 90%, 10% or less of what we were actually earning.
Yes, it was a bit of a stitch.
With our record at #1 in the charts, we discovered we were earning £5 or less per show. Unbelievable. We didn't work out the figures then. We didn't even know what we were earning. I began to look at the figures in the years that followed. What did we get for that week? I mean, we were on tour, on our first tour, getting less money than one of the guitarists back in the acts. We didn't know. No. £150 a week for 2 of us for 14 shows is £10 a show. £10 for 2 people? Work it out, £5. You haven't got to be good at maths to do that.
Yeah, for what it's worth, we weren't the only ones.
Oh,
there were many
no,
other groups.
but this is about us,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
We didn't know any. But I began to realise our obsessive attention had been all on the performing and making records and getting on stage and doing and having a good time. This is what we wanted to be.
This is what we want to be.
We'd not had any preparation on the business side. Nobody bothered to tell us. We had to learn it gradually, bit by bit. Nobody gave us no grooming. The agent lied to us. He said, "Oh, I'll get you grooming. You'll get choreo." I said, "Well, can we be taught choreography, how to move on stage? Because we don't know what to do." "Oh, don't worry, I'll see to all that." You know, nothing.
That's
nothing.
the thing about the show business, the music business. If you take a job as a police officer or an air crew or a fireman or whatever the job might be, you have so many weeks training course to teach you to do the job properly before you go. But not in show business. They just throw you in at the deep end.
Well,
get on with it.
That's how it was then for certain. Yeah. I mean, I was doing an apprenticeship as an engineer. They wouldn't let me loose down in the shops unless I knew how engineering worked.
Exactly.
But, 2 nights a week homework, take exams at the end of each year. You know, it was, and grooming. We groomed ourselves. We knew what a smart suit looked like. We'd have been having our hairstyle for 2 or 3 years, like Tony Curtis and Elvis. You know, so that we'd just go on doing it the same. But we didn't know anything about show business. We didn't know anything about stage routines or microphone technique or lighting.
Or contracts or
scripts. No, we didn't know anything. We had to learn. Luckily, we were fairly intelligent. We could talk to people and gabble as very much as we do now, you know. So, it was a shame. It was a lovely period on the success side, but such a sad disappointment on the practical side, on the business side. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. I was just going to say, and then I'll let you...
Yeah, go on then.
My impression of it was, at the time, we'd appeared in front of 4 million people at the British Heats in Britain. Now, that was a little bit intimidating, but we coped with it. We won the competition. It wasn't a big worry. So when they told us, when you go to Cannes, there'll be people all over Europe, it will be more like 80 million people watching you, which is like 20 times as many people. But I remember thinking, well, so what? I mean, you'll still be in a studio with people and mics and things.
That's how to mentally cope with it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't think about the numbers.
Don't think about the numbers. It'll still be just the same. We'll still sing the same song, and basically it'll be. It's just that millions more people will be watching. So it personally didn't worry us that much,
not
did
very
it?
much. No,
not really.
We just thought, well, don't let it overwhelm him. What's the difference between singing in the church choir with 100 people in the congregation? Well, just because you know there's 1,000 other churches, well, you can't see them.
You can't see them.
So what's the difference?
Yeah. So
I just said, let's just do our best. We know we sound good, we're enjoying it, let's just have fun. Once it sunk into me what we'd achieved, and I felt so pleased, and I thought, wow, all that early confidence has paid off. We did justify it. And then you take the, hold on a minute, but it all died very quickly. Why did it? What happened? If we were so good and so valuable, how come the people all around us, I mean, we didn't know what to do. How they were the professionals, how come they didn't make better use of us? Right, then the years went by and a few people used to contact us for different things, and I began to get irritated when people said, of course, I've looked in the Guinness Book of Records, you only ever got to number 2, and I said, no we didn't, we had a number 1. Well, no, it says in the Guinness Book of Records, and I thought, I'm getting a bit fed up with this. So I thought, well, how can I prove we had a number 1? And that was one side of it. The other one was I got disillusioned with the music business because I came from a very poor background. All I wanted to do was achieve something. We never for one moment spoke about how many cars you're going to buy, what sort of big house you're going to buy. Didn't do that. My ambition was to make enough money. I thought what my ambition would be to find some way of making enough money to pay for all the food for the rest of your life, your rent for the rest of your life, and your clothes for the rest of the life. Nothing else. I never thought I'll buy 10 suits or 3 cars or 3 mansions or anything. So, to my mind, we'd achieved it.
We weren't very materialist, were we, at all? Still aren't, really. I mean, we just wanted to be happy, singing and doing
shows and travelling, seeing the country, because my dad didn't have a car, I'd never been anywhere, I'd stepped on a train or a coach, you know. But getting back to that, the one thing was to get the security. The other one was, I was a bit upset about how somehow we'd been wasted, and I don't know why or how. The other one was, I had a social conscience, I think, from an early age, and I began to get concerned about the way the world was run and the way society worked. And I picked up very quickly on environmental interest. And I got involved in the Conservation Society in '69 and their campaign to take lead out of petrol. And once I learnt about what they were worried about, I thought, well, that's very serious. That's fairly important. To my mind, that's more important than the music business. And then Friends of the Earth started, and I joined instantly as a founder member of Friends of the Earth in about May 1971, and I threw myself into environmental concern. I thought, well, that's more important than money, and I'll be successful at that. I'll throw my passion and my energy into the music business. But alongside that, I started researching the history of our act and collecting all the information I could. And then I discovered, only in the early 80s, that the British Library had a newspaper library at Colindale, and you could go and research all the newspapers. And we got a few press cuttings, and I began to collect more, and I found all these charts, and I thought, well, there we are, #1 in records, jukebox, sheet music, radio playlist. We were in #1 in more than I knew. I thought, well, we were the amateurs, we were just starting. We very much accepted the attitude that even having a hit record doesn't make you professional, but doing the work and having the experience does. So we were learning as we went and expected to get better and better. And my side ambition was, well, pop music's all very well. I hope you don't stop making records and doing shows and to the charts. But I wonder if I could do something on the side, like writing a musical or some scripts or learning about photography and so on. I thought, well, we'll see what happens. Apparently, surely if you make a lot of money and you've got hits, you can say, well, I don't want any work for 2 weeks or a month. I've got enough. I'm going to do something personal. You know, I don't want to be nothing but a bloody pop singer. Is that all there is to life? Of course not. You know. But anyway, I collected all this information. And I thought, well, I've got proof now. We were #1. So from then on, I then positively and deliberately began to contact newspapers and magazines alongside my environmental work. And so I said, what do you do, apart from Friends of the Earth and these cycling campaigns and you plant trees and so on, what else have you done? I said, well, I used to be a pop singer and I had a #1 record, but you won't find it in the record books because they got it wrong. And so what was that? I said, well, I photocopied them, here's the charts. Thank goodness for the spread of photocopying. So I started making copies of our story. So I learned how to get into the newspapers through Friends of the Earth with the growing environmental concern, and then gradually I realised, once we got to the 70s and they started re-releasing old hits, there is actually a market for nostalgia. And I've now got the evidence, which I didn't have access to in the early 60s, about our career. So consequently, to answer your question in a roundabout way, the reason perhaps the story sounds fresh to us is that we have told it several times. And I've got to admit, in my brain, I'm still 21, 1961, I'm still 21, and I still get just as excited as if it had just happened. I said to one or two people, I said, if I woke up and there's my mum saying, come on, get up, you've got to go and see that record company. I thought, where am I, Mum? What do you mean, where are you? What's the date? And she said, oh, February 1961. What do you mean, what's the date? I think, my goodness, I've done it. I have travelled in time, and I've got a chance to put it all right.
Yes.
Wow, how did this happen? What a story for a script, you know,
There's
for a
been movies like about that, haven't there?
But imagine it happened.
Yeah.
Because you did a show somewhere and you came off stage and some bloke with a long beard said, you don't seem very happy, you did a good show, why are you upset? Well, I think of scripts. I told you, I wanted to be script. Bob and me, we used to wander around the streets and I'd come up with, he said, tell me a story. And do you remember I invented about supposing giant centipedes with poison claws pulled a manhole cover up and they chased you down the road? Oh no, I said, supposing they got you. And then they poisoned you and they ran back down the manhole and they found you in the street going like that. And they said, what do you think's happened to him? Well, he's having some sort of a fit. And you were like, no, a centipede clawed me, but you can't get the words out. He said, where do you get these stories from? I said, well, it's just invention, you know.
Imagination.
Imagination. So this idea for a script, he says to you, I feel sorry, your story has touched me. Take this magic stone, and you say, yeah. He said, I used to be a hippie, and I see things follow the sun. You say, yeah, and you put a lovely shiny stone, you put it in your pocket, go back to your hotel room, go to sleep, and you wake up in 1961. And my God, it's happened. Go for it, you know. And I come round to you and say, we mustn't sign anything. In '64, Bob and I had stopped making records, not by our choice. Basically, we didn't know there was some confrontation and problems going on behind the scenes between our recording manager and our publisher, who, unknown to us, had a secret deal. That's all I discovered about it, but it took me years to put the story together. I wondered why the record company kept turning my songs down, and I wondered why the publisher didn't get any of my songs recorded by anybody else, because 2 years after us, the Beatles had everything they recorded being covered by other people. It was only 2 or 3 years after us. When I put the story together, it turned out that our recording manager had a deal with the publisher to share the royalties from the songs I was writing on our records, and then the publisher apparently didn't cough up to the recording manager, so the recording manager thought, well, I'm not going to record any more of their songs so the publisher won't earn any money, and the publisher didn't get my songs recorded, because he thought, well, if the recording manager won the claim, he would be sharing some of the money with the recording manager. So basically our career stalled, unknown to us, nothing to do with us. We didn't stop being just as good. We made good singles, we made a good LP, we did good shows, and all of a sudden, Everybody seemed to lose interest.
Yes, exactly.
And we were mystified. We couldn't work out. We thought perhaps that's what happens. All of a sudden you're out of favour. So very briefly, I said to Bob, I said, the problem's been we've had the wrong management. I said, leave it to me. I'll look around, and anybody I notice seems to be a good manager, I'll get us an interview. Well, the mistake we've made, I think, is that we've signed contracts with people which tell us what they're going to do. I think we ought to have a contract where we're the employers, and we said, we want you to be our manager. If you agree, these are our terms. And we have a compromise. So I'd noticed Brian Epstein and the Beatles, and I looked up his phone number and rang him up. He'd taken an office from Liverpool next to the London Palladium by then in London's West End. Rang him up and told him the story, and he invited us up to his flat, March 1964.
Right.
So I said, probably get a couple of songs ready. Right. Went up to see him in Bob's car, took my guitar, invited into his flat. Hello, boys, sit us down. Would you like a glass of wine? Oh, yes, please, Mr.
Lovely
Epstein,
flat
thank you.
in Knightsbridge. Yeah.
Poured us out a glass
Epstein.
of wine. Yeah, very nice man to talk to. Nothing funny going on. I mean, I know the stories about him. It was absolutely secret back in the 60s, being homosexual, you know. We heard he was, but he didn't bother us. He didn't make any approaches to us, you know. There's nothing funny about us, you know. We've both been married 3 times. But anyway, I'm just saying that because we were so teased. You've got no idea. We were so green compared to other people. Even on our own tour, when we were headlining, like Dave Sansom was on our first tour, and he was a great laugh.
What to do? There's a young fellow out there waiting for an audition.
Oh, what's his name?
Dave Sansom.
Oh, well, I was young once myself. Shall we hear him?
Sweet dreams, Baba honey, have sweet dreams. Baba baby, have sweet dreams till the morning comes. I told you.
We had actually done 2 or 3 shows with him to start with, but then he was at our first major tour, and all the other singers on the tour and the musicians, they realised we could be teased, and we didn't know the show business language, and they started teasing us about girls and so on, you know, and making fun of us, and it was such a laugh, you know. But I've lost my track. What was I talking about just before that?
Well, seeing Epstein, weren't we?
Oh, Brian Epstein. So, that aspect of sexuality, you know, I mean, I'd only ever had one girlfriend sort of thing, you know, and I'm not sure who I was with in 60. Oh, I got married to Pat, hadn't I? Yeah. But anyway, so people were a bit touchy. You didn't mention things you didn't discuss. You know, nobody had come out in 64, you know. But anyway, we went up to his flat, and it was all fairly straightforward and very pleasant. We had this glass of wine, and we told him our story. Told him we wanted to keep going, we were looking for a new manager, and I basically told him, I said, I've noticed the articles about the Beatles and their success. I said, and we're very impressed. I said, you've clearly got a fresh approach, you're a good manager, you seem to be straightforward. The articles you get for the Beatles are good, they're well written, and the photographs, they're all doing this and so this is really, this suits us, we'd like to be involved with that sort of thing. And if you're interested, we would be very much welcome you being our manager. And he said, well, I'm very interested. He said, I'd like to. So he said, well, okay, then he said, I think perhaps I would be interested in managing. He said, well, we won't put you out straight away. He said, the Beatles are tour in the autumn of 64. He said, and you can be one of the acts on the bill. He said, I can't supply you with any musicians. You'll have to find your own musicians, your own group, you know. I said, well, that shouldn't be any problem, you know, okay, we'll look for a musician. He said, just rehearse. He said, when you think the group's ready, call me and I'll come down to see them. He said, I know you two are okay. He said, I'll come down to see them. He said, and you'll be on the tour. We said, what about a record? He said, well, we won't make a record and just before you go on tour. He said, and that's an interesting point. He said, you've sung me 2 or 3 of your new songs. He said, do you insist on recording only your own material, or would you prepare to sing other people's? He said, only my Beatles write a few songs, you know, and this was before they became well known. You see, they started recording all their own stuff. And we said, no, Bob said, no.
Exactly,
we'll record anybody's. If you think it's good enough for a record and we like it, we'll do it.
I think he was interested too in getting into the publishing side
Probably,
of things.
probably.
Epstein wasn't into publishing at that time.
No.
In fact, he never was he?
No.
But he wanted to be, I think, you know. That was the motivation.
But anyway, he was sort of simply asking, you know, if we make records, does it matter where the songs come from? And we said, no, all we want to do is go on making records, doing shows, and then we want to stay as singers. We've been badly handled, and we think we shouldn't finish yet. It's stupid. It's only 3 years since we had a #1 million seller, you know. So I said, okay. Then he said, well, off you go then and get your musicians. He said, ring me tomorrow. He offered us two sorts of contract, either a flat fee off everything or a sliding scale. So the more he earned us, the more he got. But I think the maximum was 25%, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
So we said, oh, well, next day we'll go for that. That means the more we earn, the more you earn, and the harder you'll work for us.
And while he was there, while we were there, he had a phone call from Alma Cogan. I don't know if you remember her, quite a popular singing lady at the time, because he was going to the States the next day on Pan American, I believe. And Alma wanted to go. She was going as well. She wanted to travel with him.
Yeah,
so he gave her the wrong airline. He said, "Oh, I'm going British Airways." She said, to make sure they didn't go, because he didn't want her sitting with him all the way on the same airline.
Do you think she was positive? Somebody said to me that she made sure she roped herself in with all the new acts.
Well, possibly.
So she threw parties and invited the Beatles.
She was also
and so on,
Jewish, of course, and so was
Epstein was.
So was Epi. So I think she was attracted to him, obviously.
Well, I understand. It was good business.
Epi didn't want to know, needless to say. He just wanted to keep his nose
Anyway,
clean.
so we then thought, well, we're going to go on. Good. I said to Bob, well, the Beatles. What? 2 or 3 weeks after we went up to see Epstein, the Beatles had 3 at 1, 2, and 3 in the American charts. Bob came over to dinner. I said, crikey. I said, if you thought that was good and big what we did the first time, this might be even more fantastic.
This could be even bigger.
Looks like we're going to get in with a good organisation. This would be fantastic. So we started looking for musicians and rehearsing and so on. My wife went on running the latest hairdressers, and I'm handing out rollers and brushes and mixing shampoo and taking appointments, thinking it was a bit like waiting for the first time to happen. I thought, I can't wait for this. This was in like March, April, May. I thought by the autumn, we're going to be on tour again with a record out. Oh, I thought this is going to be fantastic. It was the bigger the Beatles got. I said, crikey, if you thought that was big the first time, this is going to be amazing, wonderful. Anyway, August 1964. Opened the mail from Epstein's office, Awfully sorry to tell you. And thank you very much for coming in. And I certainly found you very interesting to talk to. It was very promising. But I've given it a lot of thought, and I'm going to be too busy with my Liverpool groups. Because by then he had the Beatles and the Foremost and the Big Three, and Cilla Black and Jerry and the Pacemakers. He signed one London group. What was it? Can't remember the name for the moment. Got to get you into my life.
Yeah.
Cliff Bennett and the Rebel Rousers. Cliff Bennett and the The only London group he signed that I know of. And that was it. And Bob said, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? We're back again.
And I said, well, you're the oldest. You decide.
Well, I didn't stop writing songs. And I said, well, it looks to me as I'll speak to a few people, and I don't know what you decided to do. But we rang a few people. I went to see them. When I saw the bloke who was managing the Brook Brothers, and he wasn't interested. He didn't want 2 duos, And I sensed the Kinks came out, and the Searchers, and then the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones came out, and I saw a picture of them. And I said to Bobby, he came out, and I said, you never believe that. I said, there's a group coming out. They're so scruffy. They don't comb their hair. They don't wear suits, and they go on stage in T-shirts and jeans. He said, no. I said, they seem to just yell. I said, they're not singers. He said, well, they won't get anywhere, will they?
No.
You've got to be groomed in the music business. If you don't have a suit and tie and your hair's done, Oh, nice quiff at the front.
I've got to tell them another anecdote again, too. We had played Manchester Palace in '62 up with Dickie Valentine and Winifred Atwell.
Yeah.
So we did our week, or maybe it was 2 weeks up there.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. We'd come down the M1 in our Jag, and it's back to London, back home, and it's Sunday afternoon. And Alan Freeman, Fluffy Freeman, is It used to be the top. It was a tradition. Everybody listened on a Sunday afternoon to Fluffy's top 20. So we used to listen, and there we were. And the next thing I heard this sound. It was "Love Me Do" by the Beatles. This whining, and I could hear 2 voices. This would be Lennon and McCartney, presumably. And John we were listening.
That'll be October '62.
Yes, listening, and I said, they sound quite good. Who are they?
Bit of a miserable record, though.
Bit of a miserable, dull record.
A nice peak.
Yeah, but who are they? And then at the end, Fluffy
harmonica.
And then Fluffy at the end, he said, that's a new group. He didn't number whatever by the Liverpool group, the Beatles.
Didn't get to number 1.
Yeah, the Beatles. So I said to John, they're the Beatles. They've got quite a good sound. And he said to me, we better watch out. They could be a threat to us.
Oh, they're singing anything in harmony.
There were two of them.
Anything in harmony. Well,
Yeah,
we got
anything in harmony
duo,
would
the
like a
Beatles.
threat.
Bit of a corny name, Beatles.
What were their names?
The
I said
Rockers.
The Beatles. Yeah, well,
Anyway,
we
that was
couldn't
the
have
start
known
of
how
it.
big they would become, of course. You know.
And even a year later, they still weren't as enormous as they became. So going up to see Epstein, we didn't think we were a particularly enormous, great thing. He's just another manager. He seemed to be like a slightly more modern version of Larry Parnes. You know,
That's right, and quite sophisticated. One thing that sticks in my mind is during the period that we were singing, the Beatles sort of rose to fame, if you like. We never officially met them, but funnily enough we bumped into them on Victoria Station, I think it was, and they were taking over from us. We'd just done a week in Jersey.
Right.
Remember the week in Jersey?
Yeah.
And we'd done the week there, and we were coming back. We'd flown back to Gatwick, and we got the train back to the
Victoria or something?
Victoria
Yeah.
Terminal. That's right, on the train. And as we got off that train,
And walked up the platform.
and walked up the platform, running down the platform was this group, the Beatles, with all their equipment. They didn't have a roadie with
Hello,
them.
fellas.
Hello, fellas. And so we just stopped briefly because they were catching the train. And I think it was Lennon or John Lennon that said, "What's it?" You know, in that Liverpool accent. "What's it like? You're going to Jersey, aren't you?" We said yes, and he said, "What's it like? Is it any good?" You know. And so we said something like, "Well, for what we remembered, well, it's very quiet and a bit dull during the week, but Friday and Saturday night it's packed and it's really swinging." He said, "Oh, great, we know what to expect," or something like that, you know. And off they went running on down to get on the train, and we carried on to get the underground home. But that was the one and only time that we sort of bumped into the Beatles. I would have liked to have met them properly and talked to
I
them
could only
more.
say another word. Another sort of sense you got, another feeling was that all the atmosphere of what was going on around you was a bit unreal.
Yes.
You knew you were in the music business, but for most of the time you didn't exist until you were on stage.
Yeah, that's
And that was
right.
unreal about it. You had to work hard to hold on to your own personality and your own character, because you began to feel sometimes you didn't exist unless you'd been booked somewhere. So you had to have something outside the music business to keep you sane.
Well, that's right. And at the same time, when we went home, like after the Beatles, for instance, we went back to our own little suburban homes with our mums and dads.
Yeah.
And just for a few days, we'd go back into ordinary life, just like we were ordinary people.
Have I got enough bread? And I've got some shirts to be washed.
Until you
know.
went back out on the road and did a big show somewhere, then suddenly you were the Allisons again. You're in show business. But the two didn't seem to merge very much.
No, we didn't live
private lives.
Didn't live the pop star lifestyle in our private lives, did we?
That
ever?
one expects. There were two lives: private life and public life as the group.
We'd never been clubbers. We never went to nightclubs,
No,
did we?
we didn't. No, perhaps we should
Nobody
have done. Looking
invited us
back.
to massive parties, you know. Perhaps we were. Well, I think looking back, that's what's unreal about it. You think you could see the slots or the opportunities where you
Yeah.
could have made an effort to do more.
Perhaps we should have been seen rolling out of clubs
I
at 3 in the
know,
morning, you know,
yeah.
out of nightclubs with incidents, you
Because
know,
we
with
kept-
taxi
we had-
drivers. And
But we
things.
had it being emphasised on us behaviour, so don't get yourselves into the papers. Don't get yourselves
right,
into
they
the
said
papers.
don't do that,
Don't,
you know,
cause,
we've
don't
done-
cause any trouble.
Behave yourself
we're the
and be good
well-behaved
boys.
Allisons, you know. We
That's
came
right.
from a church choir. We don't do anything naughty.
And don't get any scandal with girls or anything like that. If
My
you
mum
did
said,
have any, yeah.
My mum said, don't go mucking about with any girls. I said, what do you mean, Mum? She said, you'll get a girl into trouble, and then you'll be in the paper, and
That's
your
what they-
career will be
yeah,
all
exactly,
over.
yeah.
Don't do it. I thought, oh, this is terrible. One minute I can't get a girlfriend, then I've got too many to choose from, and I still can't muck
You
around.
still can't. It's like water everywhere and not a drop to drink.
And then too much,
really.
and you're being
Yeah.
bloody drowned.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the Beatles were in the same position. They were holed away in hotel rooms in America.
No, they sent people out to fetch them in for
Perhaps
them.
they
yeah.
did. I don't
We
know
never
them.
had those. We didn't
No
have those for the
comment.
road managers.
No comment. All right then.
Goodbye, farewell, I'm not sure what to do. So long, au revoir. It's hard, but I'll pull through. Are you sure you won't be sorry comes tomorrow? You won't want me back again to hold you tight.